80% of GOP voters also feel that there's going to be cheating in the 2024 election.
Joe Biden was involved in it, and obviously that would be incriminating.
The judge reserved special condemnation for the FBI over its suppression of stories about the Hunter Biden laptop.
Republican lawmakers hammered Christopher Wray especially hard over the FBI's handling of the Hunter Biden case, asking him directly if he was protecting the Biden family from accusations of corruption and bribery. Joining us now is Seamus Bruner, Director of Research for the Government Accountability Institute. Seamus, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Lindsay.
Okay, do you feel like these investigations, because there are many at this point from House Republicans, are actually having an impact in helping us get to the bottom of some of these claims we're hearing and allegations?
Well, after testimony like Director Wray's yesterday, I know a lot of Americans are frustrated. I'm frustrated because, it feels like more from the same from Wray. But I do think that Congress's investigations, the Comer oversight investigation, Jim Jordan's weaponization committee, I think they are getting to the bottom of various, many scandals. There's so many, it's hard to kind of keep track of them all. But with the Comer investigation, you've got these whistleblowers coming forward. You've got a lot of evidence mounting. I mean, we've kind of known all along about the China money to Hunter Biden and his other Biden relatives. We've known about the Ukraine money, but really these details. I mean, we had about 50% of the puzzle, and I'd say we're about 90 to 95% of the puzzle.
So what is it going to take? I think the American people are concerned at this point, but what is it going to take for the Justice Department to respond appropriately, the FBI, to actually make a change, to actually admit that there's a problem here? Because it seemed like yesterday Christopher Wray didn't want to acknowledge that there were internal problems at the agency.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A Rasmussen poll just found that 80% of Americans believe that the FBI is compromised. 85%, GOP voters, 80% of GOP voters also feel that there's going to be cheating in the 2024 election. That's 4 out of 5 GOP voters. Director Wray did nothing to assuage that. So he's got a lot of work to do to restore some of the credibility to the FBI. And it starts with admitting the truth. And we didn't see that yesterday. So, I guess we'll have to wait on the committees to find more evidence of wrongdoing, maybe some criminal referrals.
So I talked to Congressman Hearn about this, but we have next week this whistleblower, Gary Shapley. He will actually have a public hearing next week in Whistleblower X, which we aren't sure who that is yet. They say these claims are going to be astounding, that no one will be able to ignore them at this point. Do you think this will have an impact on the DOJ to have to say something or acknowledge this after that hearing next week?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I've been following closely Mr. Shapley's claims and reading all of the documents that have been coming out. I'm looking forward to this testimony. Whether the DOJ or FBI admits to anything, I think we saw yesterday with Director Wray that they are not in the habit of admitting any wrongdoing. So, we can just get more information and see what Congress can do with it.
At the end of the day, we hear about this WhatsApp message, and even Congressman Hearn mentioned it, where supposedly Hunter Biden says, my dad is in the room right beside me. But besides that text, which you could say anybody's in the room with you on a text, and you could be lying. What kind of evidence do these whistleblowers actually need to show to make their case, to really prove that what they are saying is true?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest pieces of evidence that Joe Biden was involved in Hunter Biden's business dealings was one of these meetings that Joe attended with the CEFC China Energy folks. These are the people who sent $6 million, 5 plus 1, $5 million from CEFC, $1 million from Patrick Ho, the so-called spy chief, to Hunter Biden or Joe's brother, Jim Biden. And you've got Joe Biden at the meetings. Now, he's said all along he didn't even he never even talked about business with his son, and he certainly never met with the executives of these businesses. That's a flat-out lie, and I think Mr. Shapley and the other whistleblowers are going to testify to potentially Joe's involvement, and that's where really all of this is supposed to lead. Is nobody really cares about what Hunter Biden's doing? It's what was Joe doing, and it wasn't good.
Well, right. And many people say that there is evidence to prove that Joe Biden was involved in it. And obviously that would be incriminating if he was. So many questions still remain. Seamus Bruner, great to see you this evening. Wednesday's grilling of FBI Director Wray was remarkable for the divisions it showed between federal law enforcement and Republican lawmakers who were once its strongest defenders. GOP members of Congress are increasingly clashing with federal agencies, including the FBI, over free speech issues, especially those of interest to conservatives. Centerpoint's own Doug McKelway was watching the hearing and has some thoughts on its larger repercussions. Doug, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Lindsay. Wednesday's contentious Q&A of Christopher Wray by the House Judiciary Committee was hardly the first for the embattled FBI Director Christopher Wray. But it followed a game-changing development. It came just 8 days after a federal judge issued an injunction banning not just the FBI, but the whole federal government from communicating with social media companies in any way that could interfere with free speech. As Chairman Jim Jordan noted in his opening remarks, the judge reserved special condemnation for the FBI over its suppression of stories about the Hunter Biden laptop.
Specific to the FBI, the court said this: the FBI's failure to alert social media companies that the Biden laptop story was real and not Russian disinformation is particularly troubling. The FBI had the laptop in their possession since December 2019, even after Facebook specifically asked whether the laptop story was Russian disinformation. The FBI refused to comment.
Jordan quoted from the federal judge's injunction, quote, "The government seems to have assumed a role similar to an Orwellian ministry of truth." That's a reference to its strong-arming social media companies to suppress any number of conservative takes on not only the laptop, but many other political issues of the day.
Opposition to COVID-19 mask and lockdowns, opposition to the lab leak theory of COVID-19, opposition to the validity of the 2020 election, opposition to President Biden's policies, statements that the Hunter Biden laptop was true, and opposition to policies of the government officials in power. All were suppressed. It is quite telling that each example or category of suppressed speech was conservative in nature.
Wray noted that Republican critics in their attacks on the FBI are neglecting the bread and butter work of tens of thousands of special agents in its 56 field offices nationwide.
Last year alone, working shoulder to shoulder with our partners in state and local law enforcement, the FBI arrested more than 20,000 violent criminals and child predators. That's an average of almost 60 bad guys taken off the streets per day, every day.
Committee Democrats, once known as the party skeptical of law enforcement overreach, heaped praise on the FBI, often sounding like Republicans of old.
The FBI's mission includes stopping cybercrime, right?
Correct.
The FBI's mission includes stopping public corruption, right?
Correct.
The FBI's mission includes stopping weapons of mass destruction from being detonated on American soil, right?
Oh, yes, we work with others on it, but yes.
The FBI's mission includes going after organized crime, right?
Yes.
You go after violent crime, correct?
Yes.
You also go after white-collar crime, right?
Yes.
The FBI's mission also includes going after child sex trafficking, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Republican members of their caucus, including members on this committee, have asked to defund the FBI. One member on this committee from Arizona wrote that the FBI, quote, should be defunded and dismantled. What would happen if the FBI was defunded and dismantled?
But one Democrat broke ranks, expressing concern about the FBI's wide use of what is called 702 queries. That's the collection, without a warrant, of foreign intelligence from non-Americans. But the law, by design, gives the intel community broad license to sweep up information about Americans. The FBI frequently pays big tech companies to provide them such location data.
It's since been reported that the FBI has admitted it bought U.S. location data. Is the FBI purchasing location data from commercial sources without a warrant?
Well, if you're asking about our use of 702 queries,
I am.
Those are, there is no warrant requirement under the Fourth Amendment for those queries. It's fairly well settled.
The American people need to understand what just happened. My Democrat colleague just asked the director of the FBI whether or not they are buying information about our fellow Americans. And the answer is, well, we'll just have to get back to you on that. It sounds really complicated.
That last exchange demonstrated a rare thing in this divided Congress, a hint of agreement that the federal government and big tech are collecting your personal information and can potentially use it against you. One cannot help but think that the Founding Fathers would be rolling over in their graves over that kind of testimony, knowing that in the digital age, two of our most cherished rights, the First Amendment's right to free speech and the Fourth Amendment's right against unreasonable searches, are both being eroded.